Welcome to GC Cars, my name is Eric.
And I'm Jesse, and this is the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid.
Alright, Mitsubishi Outlander. First Mitsubishi on the channel. Welcome to the GC Cars empire before we take over and have 20 million subscribers soon or something. And if you like the video, make sure to subscribe. Haha, great segue. Anyhow, let's start talking about the exterior first before we talk about the interior and the competitors. What do you think?
When I first saw this car, I was conflicted. There's a lot going on kind of in this front end. It looks nice. I think it's a nice looking vehicle. I'm not a fan of this light particularly. I feel like it doesn't kind of blend in with the rest of the design language.
It's very blobby.
Yes.
It's very blobby, I agree. And it's, from certain angles, it can look a little awkward.
Yeah.
If you have it like full on front view,
right,
I think it looks a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, they went a little bold with this.
They were ambitious.
I can appreciate that, you know.
Yes.
I can appreciate that. But yeah.
And this here, not to compare these two vehicles, but basically from here up, I kind of see like a Discovery type of inspiration going on here, even with the way the letters are.
Discovery.
Yeah.
It does look a little familiar. I got to give that to you.
But yeah, enough about that. That's just something I noticed.
Yeah. Also color scheme. We have white diamond with a black Labrador top.
Which I'm a fan. Typically I'm a fan of two-tone. And that kind of seems like a theme here. You got the two-tone rims, two-tone roof and main body here.
Yeah.
Kind of works.
No, it does work. And what's really interesting about the black roof, which is optional, is that unlike any other SUV on the road, pretty much, this doesn't have plastic cladding. You have a bit on the wheel arches, yeah, but like nothing on the side. And just a little, reminder for everyone that doesn't know. So what plastic cladding does, it kind of tricks your eyes because, like now, you see all the side, right? It looks pretty big. It looks like an SUV, but once you add some plastic cladding, it kind of shrinks the visual mass down a little. It looks a little more athletic, looks a little more elegant. They didn't do that. They did the inverse and make the roof kind of like a floating roof,
right? Black
design. Overall, though, I think it totally works. I think it's a fine looking SUV.
I mean, I'm learning something today too because I didn't know that.
There you go, learning cars with GC cars. We need a better title for that one. But rear end.
The rear end is a lot less ambitious. I mean, they played it safe. They played it safe. It works. It's nothing to write home about.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a family SUV. It doesn't need to be a Ferrari.
There's nothing that I dislike about it.
I agree. Want to see if it's the same in the interior?
Yeah, let's see how that is. All right, Mitsubishi Outlander interior. What do we think, Eric?
So, I got this car. I didn't expect much.
Yeah, no expectations, yeah.
I got into this interior, and it's nice. It's actually, I quite like it. Now, this is, if you know the new Nissan Rogue, which we have reviewed, you will be very familiar with this interior. A lot of this is based on the Nissan Rogue. The infotainment is the same. A lot of the controls are the same.
80% the same.
Yeah, which is a good thing. What Mitsubishi has done is put in some of their own touches and upgrade the materials heavily. All the touch points are soft. There's leathers everywhere with contrast stitching. It's quite nice.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't have many expectations coming into this car. What can you say? It's a really nice looking interior.
It's a nice interior. I like the steering with the perforations here. It looks good. The usability is nice. The infotainment is kind of one of the worst ones.
It's laggy. Like, whoa.
It's laggy. It doesn't have many features. Like the Nissan infotainment just isn't that great. But it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay wired, so you can just override that with your own stuff. We have a digital gauge cluster, which works really well, and I love the little gimmick that when I'm braking, it actually lights up the brake lights. No third brake light though. Interestingly, well, it's only two. This would be illegal on the road. Anyhow,
nice perforated seats.
The seats look great. I think they're very comfortable too. There's
at least this front row is, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, exactly. Heated seats, heated steering wheel, no ventilated seats. But we have massage. It's not like Lincoln or Mercedes level massage, but it's massage, and like especially for the price point, if you don't get this as a plug-in hybrid, which we're going to talk about, this is an absolutely incredible interior because this will beat out pretty much any compact SUV in the segment, bar for maybe like a CX-5 or CX-50.
CX-5s have very nice interiors,
but
this is competition for it.
This is definitely competition. I like the metals down here. I like the plastic that looks like a metal.
They need to get rid of the piano black.
Yeah, it's not the piano black.
I don't know. I'm seeing scratches on it already. Everything else is nice. They got a nice variance of materials. They got a nice silver texture here, a little carbon fiber here. It's nice.
I agree. No, honestly, very pleasantly surprised in terms of the first row. We also have a big sunroof. But while we're back there, why don't we start looking at the second row? And this is unfortunately where some of the issues start showing. First of all, the seats aren't very comfortable.
Some of the, I don't want to be too bashful, but it's probably some of the worst seats I've had in the second row in my entire life.
Yeah, these are not great seats. They're very wooden feeling, and it's like, instead of sinking into the seat, you feel like you kind of sit very much on top of it, and you never really settle in. It gets better once you recline a little bit, but it's really just, like, the materials are still nice, but unfortunately the padding, the softness, and the comfort you have in there is not as good as you might have in some other SUVs. The materials on the doors are good. You have your sunshades, you have heated seats, which is nice. But yeah, second row is still a little awkward. But Mitsubishi decided that a compact SUV needs a third row. For some reason. There is a reason why no compact SUVs, except for maybe this and I think the GLB had at one point, have no third rows. Because you do not have space for a third row. This third row is, I'm sorry to be so blunt, it is atrocious. There is no room for anyone in there. The only way you can fit an adult in there is by making the second row ridiculously uncomfortable. Like, no space at all, upright, like probably gonna die in a crash. But like...
And those headrests, they're like a foot long.
The headrests are just comic. It's just, no.
It's like, if Darius Zoolander was here, he'd be asking if that was a third row for ants. Okay, that's like, I mean, it's really bad. It's there's no leg room. If there's someone sitting in the second row and they're trying to be remotely comfortable, there's literally no leg room in that third row at all.
Yeah, so what you mentioned, for anybody that could sit in the back without a child seat to fit, is too big to fit in that third. It's
there's no point. It shouldn't be there. It's just,
I would refuse to sit in that, and most kids you're not gonna fit in there either. Like,
Eric mentioned something earlier. It's a spec sheet stacker. They're just doing it to say they have a third row, but there's really not a third. There's no functional third row in this vehicle.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, just get a midsize. Just get a midsize.
That's
SUV.
it.
Just get a midsize SUV, have some space, you'll be fine. With that being said, in storage space. So unfortunately, the third row is a little compromised and kind of awkwardly spaced, but actually, even compared to the Rogue, which is a space don, we do have a lot of space. So, like this, third row up, kind of abysmal, 11.7 cubic feet of space. But if you put down that row, you get 33.5 cubic feet. And if you now go ahead and put down the second row, you get 79.7 cubic feet of space, which is actually quite good. It's not all negative. How about we go down the road?
Sure.
Okay, now in the Mitsubishi Outlander, let's go into power mode. Traction control is on because I'm too lazy to go through the infotainment. This isn't quick enough for that. And let's go.
There was a serious...
Is it right? I mean...
There was a lack of power there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's not super quick. Oh, whatever. Do you need more than that? What I found funny was there's a very initial kind of like jerk.
And then it just stops.
And then it just didn't go. Like, you thought like, oh, I'm getting back. No. Anyhow, we have a naturally aspirated 2.4 liter inline four, mated with 2 electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear, technically another one in the front as well. So technically there's 3 electric motors, but one of them basically is only regeneration, and it's very complicated because hybrid. We have a 20 kilowatt hour battery, total combined output 248 horsepower, and 332 pound-feet of torque, which is totally adequate.
It's adequate. You're not buying this for 0 to 60 times.
Exactly. And you know what's really nice about this? All the other hybrids in this price point feel like punishment boxes. They drive horrible, they're atrocious, they're slow. This isn't necessarily fast, but I get the power when I need it, and it just does what it needed to do. It drives normal, which almost no other plug-in hybrid at this price point does. And I really appreciate this just being a car that works.
Speaking of the price point,
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
That's the big one. But what is also very nice, because we have a 20 kilowatt hour battery, we get up to 60 kilometers of range, which is really good. That's like 37 miles.
Which is, for the average person, that's their daily commute right there.
Oh, exactly, yeah. If you charge at home, and maybe even can charge at work, like, you just never use gas. In this, I was able to get most of my ways just using electricity. Honestly, it's great. It's much more range than most other plug-in hybrids have. And if you use the combined ICE plus charging, well, like hybrid mode, I was around 3.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is quite impressive.
Time for our fun handling test.
Ooh. Yeah, so handling test time, let's put it into tarmac, which is sport mode, but just weirdly named. And let's see how well this Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid handles itself.
Holy
And that's why I love this car.
Wow.
More than all the other ones, because it's rear-wheel drive bias and it slides.
That was interesting.
Oh, that's what I wanted. And I
did not
didn't
expect
tell you
that.
beforehand because I wanted you to be surprised.
Holy.
It did push quite a bit. That was a bit of understeer. It went from like understeer to oversteer to understeer.
The guy stopped at
oversteer.
that light was like, what is going on here?
That was so good.
Too fast, too furious.
The first time I did a handling test on this, I was like, oh, wait, it actually drives nicely. That was awesome. So yes, this is rear-wheel drive biased, unlike all the other cars in this segment.
Now I know.
Which make it much more fun to drive, but also make it drive just nicer in daily driving scenarios, because pretty much all the luxury cars are rear-wheel drive biased, and compared to the front-wheel drive biased, kind of like Escape or stuff like that, which is a huge pro for at least me in this Outlander, that you can actually have fun. But how about we switch seats and we get you driving?
Sure, let's do it.
I
did not expect that.
That was a big one. All right, with the handling test out of the way, I was quite surprised by how nice this handles, because when I picked this one up, I did not like it. I did not like how this drives.
Why?
Because first of all, the brakes are a little touchy, very touchy actually.
There's a TRX right there.
There's a TRX right now. Stellantis goes the TRX in yellow. So the brakes are a little touchy, I found. But what really made me not like this car at first was the steering. The steering is, quite frankly, one of the worst steering.
The brakes are very
feelings.
touchy. Yeah, they're very touchy.
Just
Wow.
suddenly jerk forward.
Jeez.
And the steering is kind of horrible. So what you will notice,
The steering wheel feels extremely light.
it is extremely light, then it weights up a little, then it gets lighter, then you suddenly have a lot of input. Like it's
It's very odd.
very odd. At first I struggled to keep this thing straight.
Yeah.
Because you do a correction, then suddenly goes a lot, and then goes a little, and then it's not very linear. You get used to that. I got used to it day 2, it was fine. Could it be better? Yes. A lot better? Yes. But it's just something you get used to, and eventually it's not a big problem anymore. But during the handling, at least, the steering kind of weights up a little, so you can kind of feel out what's happening. The suspension does give in a bit, and there's a lot of body roll, so you can kind of feel it out. Not that it matters in the Outlander. But yeah, so my first experience with this was really negative in terms of driving. But it kind of got there. I don't know, how are you feeling right now?
Hopping into the front seat, I mentioned to you earlier, the first thing I noticed is how high this hood feels.
Yes.
I kind of feel like I'm in an awkward position right now because I'm almost looking down. I'm almost looking down at my gauge cluster here. But
Yeah.
I need to be this high, because if I'm not this high, I'm kind of just looking at hood.
Yeah, the visibility is not great, and the blind spots are quite big. And see what I mentioned? I noticed. You're left,
Yeah,
right,
like,
left, right,
it's
left,
very-
right. Like, it's so hard to find that spot at first where it's actually going like straight, and you just want to do a slight correction, but it keeps going, and I don't know. It's odd.
I'll know when I take a few more turns here, but
Yeah.
it drives pretty smoothly. I mean,
Yeah, like the
on
hybrid
straight.
system and all the powertrain, honestly, no complaints. The hybrid system works really well. We can put it into, we have all the driving modes in terms of like charging. You can charge the battery with a motor. You can save the battery for later, which I use today because we're driving quite far to get here.
Right.
We can drive in EV mode only. We can drive one pedal driving if you like that, which isn't quite one pedal driving. It doesn't slow you down to 100, to like 0, but it just slows you down to like 5.
Speaking of modes, they're a bit confusing. You got the power and you got the tarmac mode, which
Yeah,
are
so-
basically one and the same in a way.
Yeah, so they're very similar, but then there's a power mode, but it has like electric symbol on it, and it says the most power. And then there's the tarmac mode, which is a sport mode, which also says power
Power,
and
so-
acceleration. It's like, what are you talking about? So you just kind of wiggle it out, you figure it out. But I think this ride's really nice.
It does. It rides nice. It's smooth.
Yeah, especially. Sorry, go ahead.
No, when I make a turn here, I'm going to get on the gas a bit to see what the power feels like
Yeah.
from the driver's seat. But it's, I mean,
it's totally adequate.
yeah.
There's really not much negative, like aside from the weird steering and this brakes being touchy, both things you get used to. In the driving experience, I really don't have any complaints. It drives fairly nice. The suspension, especially over small bumps and small imperfections, is great. The noise levels are decent. I mean, on the highway it gets a little noisier, but it's also a windy day, which we have to be mindful of. And then there's tech. And tech-wise, well, we have the Nissan tech in here, which works pretty well. You have like a semi-autonomous driving assist, and honestly, you have pretty much all you need. And I like it. It drives pretty well. And this light is always red for some reason. I don't think we've ever had this light not red.
That's pedal to the metal.
There we go. So yeah, it's definitely not...
Listen,
It's
this
fine.
is not a performance vehicle.
Exactly. It'll do its job.
For a daily driver, family hauler, what more do you really need?
And it's quicker than most plug-in hybrids. And it
Yeah.
drives better than most plug-in hybrids, which brings us to the price. The big one. This Mitsubishi Outlander Premium, top spec, S-spec, clocks in at 59,900 and...
58?
Sorry, 598.
Yes, 598. Dyslexic.
Yeah, dollars Canadian, which is a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
You're reaching into a a certain category with that price.
Yes, and that's where you start getting a whole lot of other competitors. Compact hybrid SUVs is still kind of niche. It's. I feel like we have more compact EV SUVs than we have plug-in hybrids, but especially once we compare it to the Escape hybrid, the Tucson hybrid, those are around 50, just under 50 grand.
Right.
So we're paying $10,000 more to get this. Now, is it worth it? We get more range. The drivetrain feels nicer. It's not a punishment box. The interior is quite frankly a lot nicer, and it drives better in terms of dynamics. Is that worth $10,000 for the average person? I don't think so, because the average person is not going around driving 10 different hybrid vehicles and even noticing the difference.
Right.
The average person won't do stupid handling tests like we do.
The average person wants to save $10,000.
The average person wants to save $10,000. So that's where I'm just like, this might, like, it's a nice vehicle.
I mean, if you're someone who doesn't need a hybrid, you could save $14,000.
Which is the big thing. Which
Right.
I think as a plug-in hybrid, this isn't, like, it's not bad, but it's a little nichey. But once you take out the plug-in hybrid, you save $14,000.
It's a lot of money, man. Like,
yes, there's government incentives and all that, depending on when you.
it's still
watch
$9,000 or
it, and,
$10,000.
It's still $9,000 or $10,000, which makes a huge difference. And if you look at this as a top spec non-hybrid, this is actually an amazing car. Because yes, it'll have the drivetrain of the Nissan Rogue. It won't drive as nicely as it does right now, but you will still have the same interior, which is going to be at the same price, a massive step up over what the Rogue offers, about what many other competitors offers, and like we said in the interior segment, maybe the CX-5 and the CX-50. I think they're very similar in terms of the niceness.
I'm a big fan of the CX-5 personally.
Agreed, me too. I had declared it the best in the segment until the CX-50 came around and dethroned it personally. I know that's a bit of a debate for some people. But once we look at it as not a plug-in hybrid, I think this becomes a very logical, a very good choice that I can see people make. You just kind of have to be aware of it, that it exists, because if you're looking for a plug-in hybrid compact SUV that for some reason has a third row, that's not really a third row. If you want to have a nice compact hybrid SUV that drives well and you're willing to spend a little more money, I can totally see this being a choice you might make.
But even then, you still have options.
You still have options, some of which you will see in the future on this channel. Wow, another amazing segue. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Like I said, more videos to come every week. We got different cars. We got a lot of interesting cars to come. It's summer. It's sports car season. Well, it's not summer yet, but when you see that
Almost
video,
there.
when you see that video, it's summer probably, and it's sports car season. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Any last words from you?
Catch y'all in the next one.
Bye bye. Come in here. All right. Oh, you thought that was a retake?
No, I thought it was a retake.
No, it was a retake, but I scrapped the retake like halfway through the take.
Oh, okay.
So we can take another take. Take the lead.
All right, take 15.
Okay, F-150 was last week. Cool.
F-150, holy, are you okay? This is not an F-150.
So close. Welcome to Juicy Cars. My name is Eric.
And I'm Jesse, and this is the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid.
You still have a weird plug-in hybrid.
Plug-in hybrid.
Plug-in hybrid.
Plug-in hybrid.
Plug-in hybrid.